Imagine a man who owns everything: wealth, power, respect. Yet in the middle of all his success, he makes a shocking choice: to divorce his glamorous wife and marry his poor maid. Why would a billionaire do such a thing? What could possibly lead him down that path? This story will reveal it all. The sun rose over the city as Chief Ibrahim Khan stood on the balcony of his mansion, sipping tea. At 54, he was one of the most successful real estate moguls in the country. His clothes were simple, his presence commanding, his face calm but his heart unsettled. Despite everything he had achieved, peace was slipping further from his reach. The sound of heels broke the silence. Zara, his wife, appeared dressed in a silk robe, her makeup flawless even at 7 in the morning. A cloud of perfume followed her as she entered. "Good morning, Zara," Ibrahim greeted warmly. "Morning," she replied curtly, her eyes still fixed on her phone. "I thought we could have breakfast together today," he said softly. "The chef prepared something special." She waved her hand dismissively. "No need. I don't want to eat that oily food. I'm going to the spa later. I don't want to feel heavy." Ibrahim sighed. "Zara, it's been months since you last cooked. Do you remember how we used to cook together when we first got married?" She smirked. "Please. That was years ago, when I didn't know better. Cooking in this heat with my nails? No thank you. I'm your wife, not a servant." "It's not about being a servant," he replied calmly. "It's about showing care. A home-cooked meal sometimes means more than all the money in the world." Zara laughed coldly. "Care? Don't lecture me about care. You have money, don't you? Money buys care. Hire people. Hire 10 if you want. That's what rich men do." Her words stung. Ibrahim had always believed love was built on the little things: patience, laughter, small acts of kindness. But Zara treated such things as meaningless. He looked at her steadily. A woman's humility is part of her beauty. Her eyes narrowed. "Are you saying I'm not beautiful anymore?" "I'm saying beauty without humility is like perfume on a corpse. It fades quickly." Her mouth fell open in anger. "If you wanted a village woman who cooks all day, maybe that's who you should have married." He turned his gaze back to the ocean beyond the compound walls. The fisherman out at sea seemed freer than he was in his own home. "And let me make something clear," Zara continued sharply. "I will not lift a finger in this house except to dial my phone or open my purse. If you want things done, get a maid, a cook, a cleaner. In fact, get me a driver too. I don't want to stress myself on the road." Ibrahim studied her face carefully. The woman he had once loved was buried under layers of pride. "All right," he said quietly. "I will get a maid." She smiled, thinking she had won. "Good. And make sure she's competent. I don't like repeating myself." That night, Ibrahim sat in his study, the ticking clock loud in the silence. He remembered his late mother's words: "A marriage without respect will eat your peace like termites eat wood." 2 weeks later, the mansion gates opened. A slender young woman entered, clutching a faded travel bag. Her name was Amara. Only 22, yet life had already aged her eyes. Her father was a poor palm wine tapper, her mother bedridden with illness. Amara had come to the city not out of desire, but out of duty, to send money home for medicine and food. She bowed respectfully. "Good morning, sir." "Good morning, Ma." "Good morning, my dear," Ibrahim said with warmth. "You must be Amara." "Yes, sir." Zara barely looked up from her phone. "So you know how to cook, clean, and do laundry?" "Yes, Ma." "You can polish marble floors, iron silk without burning it?" "Yes, Ma." "And you can keep quiet and mind your business?" Amara hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, Ma." "Good," Zara said coldly. "Start immediately, and don't break anything. This is not your village." Ibrahim frowned at his wife's tone but said nothing. He simply watched as Amara followed the cook toward the kitchen, her scarf slipping slightly as she carried herself with quiet dignity. Something about her struck him deeply: her humility, her patience, the way she carried hardship without complaint. He didn't know it yet, but her arrival had just changed everything. Within hours of her arrival, Amara began to prove herself. She cleaned the massive dining hall until the mahogany table shone like polished glass. She organized the pantry without being told, scrubbed the silverware until it sparkled, and moved with a quiet efficiency that impressed the staff. The gardener whispered to the cook, "That girl is like fire. Fast, but careful. I've never seen anyone work like that." By noon, Amara prepared a pot of rich soup. The aroma drifted through the mansion, warm and inviting. When she brought Ibrahim his lunch, a bowl of steaming agouti soup with pounded yam, he took a single bite and paused. "This is perfect," he said, genuinely impressed. Amara lowered her gaze. "Thank you, sir." But Zara, sitting nearby, wrinkled her nose. She tasted her portion and pushed it away. "It's too salty." Ibrahim frowned. "It's not salty at all." "Maybe not for you. My tongue is sensitive," she replied dismissively, waving her hand as though the food wasn't worth another glance. From that day forward, the mansion took on a new rhythm. Every morning, Amara rose before dawn, bathed quickly, whispered a short prayer for her mother, and began her chores. She polished the railings, swept the corridors, washed clothes, and prepared breakfast before Zara even woke. She never complained, never raised her voice, always bowing slightly when she greeted Ibrahim. One evening, after a long day at work, Ibrahim returned to find the air filled with the scent of fresh bread and pepper soup. Amara emerged from the kitchen, carrying a tray. "Welcome back, sir," she said warmly. "Thank you, Amara," he replied with a smile. "How is your mother?" Her eyes softened. "She is still sick, sir, but I'm sending her some money next week for medicine." "You're a good daughter," Ibrahim said sincerely. "She's lucky to have you." Tears glistened in Amara's eyes. "Thank you, sir." But not everyone appreciated her presence. From the hallway, Zara rolled her eyes. "Ibrahim, must you chat with the help like she's your friend? You'll spoil her." His jaw tightened, but he said nothing. The contrast was becoming impossible to ignore. On one side stood Zara, wealthy, proud, and dismissive. On the other stood Amara, poor, humble, and full of gratitude. The first cracks in the household didn't come from the walls, they came from Zara's voice. "Amara!" she shouted one morning. "Where's my ginger tea? I told you boiling hot, not warm." Amara rushed in, a fresh cup in her hands. "I'm sorry, Ma, the kettle hadn't finished." "Do you argue with me now?" Zara snapped. "Put it down and leave before you spill it. Honestly, the village is always written on your face." Ibrahim looked up from his newspaper. "Zara, she's doing her best." Zara turned, her smile sharp. "And you suddenly know the temperature of tea?" Amara placed the cup down quietly, her fingers trembling. She had already learned that silence was her safest shield. Days turned into weeks, and Zara's attitude grew harsher. She mocked Amara for being slow, sent her back to rewash already clean dishes, and criticized her cooking even when everyone else praised it. Yet Amara endured with patience. She remembered her mother's weak voice over the phone whispering, "Stay strong, my daughter. This job is our only hope." One afternoon, Amara carried a tray of food to the dining room. She had prepared grilled fish with plantain and salad. She was only 5 minutes late. Zara's eyes narrowed. 5 minutes? Do you think time is elastic because you're poor?" Amara lowered her head. "I'm sorry, Ma." The plate flew across the room, smashing against the wall. Fish and salad slid down the marble, leaving stains. Zara stood, her robe flowing like a queen's gown. "I told you 6 o'clock sharp. If you can't keep time, maybe a lesson will help you learn." "Ma," Amara whispered, her voice shaking. Zara's lips curved into a cruel smile. "Follow me." Narrator. What Zara did next would cross a line no one could ever erase. A line that would not just shake the household, but would change Ibrahim's life forever. Zara led Amara through the hallway, past the chandelier, and into the garden. The evening breeze carried the scent of flowers, but there was no softness in the moment. In the corner stood the kennels, large cages meant for the family dogs. Zara stopped at one and turned the key. "Since you cannot keep time, you will learn how to wait. Sit inside," she ordered. Amara's eyes widened. "Ma, please. 1 hour. No food, no water. If you move, you're fired." Amara looked at the cage, the cold bars, the concrete floor. Her dignity trembled, but she thought of her mother's medicine, her family's hunger. Slowly, she stepped inside. The door clanged shut, the lock turned, and Zara slipped the key into her clutch. Good. Learn to be early next time, she said coldly before walking away, leaving Amara behind the bars like an animal. The sky darkened. The evening cooled. Amara hugged her knees and bit her lip to keep from crying. At that very moment, Ibrahim's SUV rolled into the compound. He stepped out, tired from a board meeting, loosening his tie. But then his eyes caught something unusual at the corner of the garden. His briefcase dropped to the ground. "Amara!" he shouted. The young woman lifted her head, her scarf falling loose. Her eyes filled with quiet humiliation. "Who put you here?" Ibrahim demanded, his voice trembling with anger. Before Amara could answer, Zara's heels clicked against the tiles. She appeared, dressed elegantly for a dinner party, her clutch in hand. "Oh, you're back early," she said casually. "Zara," Ibrahim's voice was low but dangerous. "Why is Amara locked in a dog cage?" Zara's painted lips curved into a smile. "Ask her. She thought it was acceptable to serve my food 5 minutes late." "You mean, you locked her here over 5 minutes? 5 minutes today, 10 tomorrow, an hour next week," Zara replied smoothly. "These village girls only learn through lessons." Ibrahim's face darkened. "This is not a lesson. This is humiliation. You locked a human being in a cage meant for animals. Do you hear yourself?" "She's just a maid, Ibrahim. Don't act like you've never disciplined staff before." "Discipline is one thing," he growled. "Dehumanizing is another." Zara's eyes sharpened. "Oh, so now you're her savior? Should I be worried about how protective you've become of my maid?" Amara flinched at her tone. Ibrahim ignored his wife, snatched the clutch and pulled out the key. He knelt, unlocked the cage and held out his hand. "Come on, Amara. You're safe now." She hesitated, glancing nervously at Zara, but Ibrahim's voice softened. "That's an order." Slowly she took his hand. Her palms were rough, her fingers trembling. Ibrahim noticed the red marks on her arms from the bars. "Go inside, drink some water, eat something," he told her gently. Amara bowed and hurried toward the servants' quarters, her footsteps quick, as though escaping shame itself. Ibrahim turned back to Zara. "Do you even realize what you've done? You've crossed a line that can never be uncrossed. Stop acting like I'm a monster. She's just a maid. She should be grateful she's even here." "Grateful?" Ibrahim's voice cracked with disbelief. "Grateful for what? For being treated worse than the dogs in this house? She's not family. Why do you care so much?" "Because I'm human," Ibrahim said firmly. "Because I know what it's like to be poor and powerless. Because when I see her I remember my own mother scrubbing floors just to put food on the table. And because I will not let my home become a place where cruelty is normal." Zara rolled her eyes. "You've always been too soft." "No, Zara," he shouted, his voice echoing through the garden. "This isn't softness, it's decency, something you lost a long time ago." For a long moment, they stared at each other, one with defiance, the other with heavy disappointment. Then Ibrahim turned away, his voice low. "I can't even look at you right now." That night, as the mansion went quiet, Ibrahim lay awake in bed. Zara slept peacefully beside him, untouched by guilt. But every time he closed his eyes, he saw Amara's face in the cage, and for the first time, Ibrahim wondered if marrying Zara had been the greatest mistake of his life. Morning came, but for Ibrahim it brought no peace. The image of Amara behind bars replayed in his mind like a wound that refused to heal. He barely slept, and every tick of the clock pushed him closer to a decision he had avoided for years. At 7, he left the bedroom silently and went to his study. He dialed a number he had saved for emergencies. "Chief, good morning," came the voice on the other end. "Good morning, Uche," Ibrahim said firmly. "I need you to come to the house today. Bring the papers." There was silence. "Which papers, sir?" "The divorce papers." By 9, the lawyer arrived with a brown envelope. The marble floors gleamed under the morning light as Zara sat lazily on the sofa, sipping her cappuccino. "What's this?" she asked. "Another property transfer?" Ibrahim's voice was calm but sharp. "No, Zara, this is freedom. I want a divorce." Her cup froze halfway to her lips. "You're joking." "I don't joke with my peace, and I have none left with you." Her eyes narrowed. Over what? A maid? You're ending our marriage because of her? I'm ending our marriage because of you, Ibrahim said, his tone rising. Because you have no compassion. Because you treat people as if they are beneath you. Because you locked a human being in a dog cage without remorse. Zara slammed the cup on the table. You're overreacting. She's paid to serve. If she can't follow instructions, then to degrade her, to strip her dignity? Ibrahim cut in, his voice like fire. Zara, I was born into nothing. I know what it means to be powerless. I swore I'd never use my position to crush anyone, yet I've watched my wife do exactly that. She laughed bitterly. So now you're the saint who rescues helpless girls? Should I believe you haven't been enjoying her company a little too much? The accusation hit like a slap, but his expression stayed hard. If I admire her, it's because she has something you lost long ago: humility, respect, and a heart. Zara's voice dripped with scorn. Humility doesn't buy mansions. Respect doesn't keep you in designer clothes. You married me because I fit in your world. I married you, Ibrahim replied slowly, because I thought you had a good heart. I was wrong. Her eyes blazed. You think you can throw me away after all these years? After all I've given you? What you've given me is noise where I needed peace, pride where I needed partnership, and shame in the way you treat others. I can't live with that anymore. If you file for divorce, I'll ruin you in the media, she threatened. I'll tell everyone you left me for the maid. Enough! Ibrahim's voice thundered through the room. You've already ruined yourself. I don't care what you tell the world. My peace of mind is worth more than public opinion. The lawyer placed the papers on the glass table. Madam Zara, these are the terms. Chief is offering you a fair settlement. Zara snatched the envelope and flipped through it. This? You think this will satisfy me? I can take more. Take whatever you want, Ibrahim said coldly. Just leave my house. Leave my life. For the first time, her confidence wavered. She realized he would not bend, not this time, but her pride wouldn't let her beg. Fine, she said, lifting her chin. But don't come crawling back when you realize your mistake. The only mistake I made, Ibrahim replied, was letting this go on for so long. With a sharp click of her heels, Zara stormed out, the sound echoing like the final nails in a coffin. The silence that followed felt heavy, yet strangely peaceful. For the first time in years, Ibrahim felt a weight lift from his chest. 6 months passed after Zara's departure, and the mansion felt like a different place. Gone were the echoes of raised voices. Gone was the heavy air filled with pride. In its place came peace. Soft humming from the kitchen, the gentle clink of dishes, the faint sound of a broom sweeping marble floors. Ibrahim noticed it most in the mornings. He would come down to the dining room and find the table already set, napkins folded neatly, the aroma of fresh bread in the air. Amara would greet him with a quiet smile. "Good morning, sir," she would say politely. And every time it touched him more than he could admit. At first, his gratitude toward Amara was simply practical. She worked hard, kept the house spotless, and brought back dignity to the staff. But slowly, it became something deeper. He saw her strength, her patience, her dignity despite her poverty. One afternoon, he returned from a long meeting and found her kneeling in the garden, pulling weeds with her bare hands. "You shouldn't be doing that without gloves," he said gently. She looked up, startled but smiling. "It's fine, sir. Gloves make me slower." "You work too hard," he said, half admiring, half concerned. Her smile softened. "Work keeps my mind from worrying about my mother." His chest tightened. He had heard bits about her mother's illness, about the nights Amara stayed awake praying, about the money she sent home without fail. The contrast between her and Zara almost took his breath away. One woman who thought work was beneath her, and another who embraced it with quiet strength. That night, sitting alone in his study, a thought crept into his mind. What if? What if love didn't always arrive in diamonds and designer gowns? What if love could be found in humility, in sacrifice, in kindness? But hesitation followed. She was young. She worked for him. He was her employer. Would it be selfish to think of her differently? Would people say he had simply replaced his wife with the maid? He tried to silence these thoughts, but they lingered in every little thing, in the way her laughter warmed the cold rooms, in the way her hands, rough with work, created comfort wherever she touched, in the way he wanted to know more, not just about her chores, but her dreams. One evening after dinner, the staff cleared the table and left. Amara remained behind, gathering the last of the plates. Ibrahim spoke without planning to. "You've changed this house, Amara," he said quietly. She looked up, surprised. "Me, sir? How?" "You filled it with peace," he said, with respect, with warmth. She blinked, unsure how to respond. "I only do what I can, sir." He smiled faintly. "Sometimes doing what you can is more than enough." When she left the room, he sat staring at the doorway long after. For the first time in years, he felt hope. Days turned into weeks, and his respect for her grew into something he could no longer deny. And though he wasn't ready to name it yet, deep inside he knew. This was the beginning of something he would never be able to walk away from. One evening, the sky glowed gold as the sun dipped beyond the horizon. The hibiscus flowers in the garden swayed gently in the wind. Ibrahim stood under the almond tree, a velvet box in his palm. Amara approached, her hands still smelling faintly of the bread she had baked. She bowed slightly. "You sent for me, sir?" "Yes," Ibrahim said softly. For a moment, he simply looked at her, the strength in her eyes, the grace in her posture. Then he opened the box. Inside lay a delicate gold ring. "Amara," he began, "when you first came here, you were just a maid, but over time I saw your heart, kind, loyal, compassionate. You healed this house and you healed me. I've thought about this for months. Amara, will you marry me?" Her eyes widened, tears welling up. "Sir, I'm just a maid." "No," he interrupted gently. "You are not just anything. You are the woman I want to spend the rest of my life with." Amara covered her mouth with trembling hands. Yes, I will." And for the first time in years, the mansion's garden heard genuine laughter. The wedding was held 2 months later. Unlike Zara's extravagant parties filled with diamonds and noise, this ceremony was simple, just as Amara wished. The hall was decorated with fresh flowers from local markets, white drapes swayed gently, and the air carried the sweet scent of palm wine. Chief Ibrahim stood at the altar in a rich navy outfit, his eyes fixed only on Amara as she walked toward him. She wore a modest lace gown, her scarf tied neatly, her steps graceful yet humble. There was no pretense, no pride, only dignity. When they exchanged vows, Ibrahim's voice was steady. "I promise to love you, to protect you, and to respect you, not for what you do, but for who you are." Amara's voice trembled as she replied, "And I promise to stand by you in peace and in storms, to keep our home a place of kindness, and to love you with all my heart." The applause echoed through the hall, but it was their shared smile that spoke the loudest. A week after the wedding, Ibrahim fulfilled another promise. He arranged for Amara's sick mother to be flown abroad for treatment. For months, she received the best care money could buy. When she finally returned, she walked into the mansion on her own feet, her laughter filling the air. She held Ibrahim's hands with tears streaming down her cheeks. "You didn't just marry my daughter, you saved me." Ibrahim smiled. "She saved me first." The mansion that was once filled with arrogance now breathed peace. The staff worked in harmony. Laughter echoed in the halls, and even the air felt lighter. The shadows of Zara's cruelty had been replaced by Amara's warmth. In the evenings, Ibrahim and Amara would often sit together in the garden. Sometimes they spoke about their childhood memories, sometimes about their dreams for the future. Other times they simply sat in silence, finding comfort in each other's presence. One night, as the city lights twinkled in the distance, Amara rested her head on his shoulder. "You've given me more than I ever dreamed of," she whispered. He kissed her forehead gently. "And you've given me something money could never buy. Peace." For Ibrahim, the journey had been long, filled with heartbreak and betrayal. But in choosing humility over pride, kindness over cruelty, and love over appearances, he had found not only a partner, but also a purpose. True love is built on character, not status. Wealth means nothing without kindness. Pride destroys, while humility heals. Respecting others, no matter their position, brings peace to a home. In the end, it was not money, diamonds, or status that made Ibrahim rich. It was compassion, loyalty, and humility. And these treasures, priceless beyond measure, turned a mansion into a home, and two wounded hearts into one.